Well, good evening, and it's been an amazing day, hasn't it? Thank you to the organizers. We've covered a lot of territory, both in this building and in the other building, dealing with amazing issues, both relating to business and to the bigger question of a future that we all aspire to. I was asked to say a few words on the subject of fairness and justice, because it does seem to me at the end of the day, the entire discussion of the future relating to climate change and nature, and thank you, Marco, for that amazing film you showed us, is actually all about justice, isn't it? And we need to think about it. Generally speaking, moving from today to a greener, more sustainable future that is lower carbon in production and honors nature, generally speaking, that will be a much fairer. And we need that. Why? Because in the United States, the top 1% of the wealth holders have 12 times as much wealth as the entire bottom 50%. And that's true basically for the whole world. It is shocking how inequality has increased. Now, why does a movement from today to a better tomorrow in terms of environment, why does that lead to a more fair world? And it's not entirely unambiguous, this, by the way. Well, first, of course, it is the poor that are most affected by environmental damage. That's been I grew up in London, and you know, where do you expect the poor people to live? Downriver, downwind. East end of London was the poorest housing. Why? Because the wind blows in that direction and the river flows in that direction. And that's, if it's true in London, it is absolute, and now, by the way, it's no longer true in London. Those areas have gentrified. Why? Because we actually don't have the problem of the wind blowing pollution to the same extent. But if that's true in London, is absolutely true for a farmer in Africa who is suffering from environmental damage. So simply addressing the damage itself will empower the poor and will be more fair. But that's not the only reason, but that's the main reason. Another reason is, what are the kinds of policies we would put in place if we do want to solve the problem? Well, one of the things we do good economics. So we would, for example, tax bad things like overconsumption. We would tax the use of things that cause pollution. We'd tax congestion. Who is it that pollutes the most? Those that consume the most fossil fuels. Who are those? Those are wealthy people. So in and of itself, we would find that simply shifting the prices, which we need to do, and by the way, don't let anybody tell you that if you put a tax on gasoline, that it is bad economics and distortionary. On the contrary, it is very bad economics not to put a tax, because for over 100 years, we economists have known that good economics says you should tax bad things like congestion and pollution, and you should not tax good things like, for example, hard work, which poor people tend to do. So it turns out that the kinds of policies that we would put in place in and of themselves will be helpful. And then a third reason it tends to be more fair is that the agents of change will generally be closest to the front lines. And the film we just saw, which is absolutely amazing, makes that so clear, and Brazil makes that fundamentally clear. Who is it that protects the forests? It's the people that dwell in the forests. And we've known for decades that if we want to save the forests, we should empower indigenous people. And what's true of indigenous people is true of a much broader set of actors. It will be citizens who are agents of change, and they will be empowered. And jobs will be created. Yesterday, a very important report was issued on jobs and skills for the green transition. And it turns out that 375 million net increase in jobs will happen if we do it right. And where are those jobs? Most of them, actually, interestingly, are in rural areas, because that's the investment in nature. Who are those going to get those jobs? And if you look at the income distribution of the jobs that will be created, it is those maybe in the sort of bottom half of the income distribution that will do the best. So generally speaking, we will see a fairer world. But here's the point. It won't necessarily always happen automatically. We should not assume that all technological change is beneficial for equality. It is not. There's a very famous book came out, I think it was last year, by two of the world's most famous economists, Darren Acemoglu and Simon Johnson. It's called Power and Progress. And it looks at technological change over the last 1,000 years. And it turns out that sometimes technological change will benefit the bottom half of the income distribution, but usually it doesn't, at least not in the short run. It usually benefits the economy as a whole, but often it exaggerates income inequality. So even, for example, the Industrial Revolution, when it first took place at the end of the 18th century, for the first 50 years in England, wages for workers actually declined, interestingly. Now, later on, they caught up. So we need to be very sophisticated as we rightly invest in new technological development. We need to be very sophisticated in thinking through and planning for and managing the income distributional aspects that we have. And I wanted just to, and so it's a really important issue to take into account. The other thing that we really need to be careful about is, whilst we can now demonstrate, you know, the best economists in the world have a new economic model now. It doesn't, the trade-offs that existed before, as we talked about this morning, the trade-offs that existed before don't exist. It turns out that smart investment in climate action will lead to more economic efficiency, it will drive new technologies, it will lower risk, and it will reshape expectations. Combined, that will be good for the economy as a whole. But we shouldn't assume that it will be good for every corporation or every household. And we need to think through very carefully, particularly for those who are less fortunate, who is going to suffer. And we in the environmental movement have not done a good job at putting human beings at the center of things. And it's only when you put people at the center of things you will realize that actually shifting in the direction we need to shift will hurt some people, and we need to take account of it. So whilst overall we will see a benefit to income distribution and wealth distribution and the distribution of power, we shouldn't always assume it. And actually that book that I mentioned, which is about power and progress, the word power really relates to political power. And at the moment, the wrong people have too much of the political power. And part of this entire thing is more democracy. And down here from Indonesia, head of the parliament there gave a wonderful talk in the other building about green democracy. And it's only when we really sort of honor those that are affected most by environmental damage. And so a final point. We are not going to achieve any of this that we talked about today unless we have a mindset change. And it's not just our heads, it's our hearts that have to change. And part of that heart change needs to be a moral goodness. And we need to have a moral goodness with regard to nature, and we need to have a moral goodness as applied to each other. And you can be the best technologist in the world, but if you don't understand the importance of morality and the heart in all of this, we are going to make no progress whatsoever. So thank you all for a wonderful day. It's been really exciting.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Sir Andrew Steer, for your very honest, passionate insights and views, but also unpacking that people are at the center of it all. So there's a humanity to all that you're doing. Next to come onto the stage, I have the proud honor of inviting Dr. Bertrand Piccard. Pardon my French. He is the founder of Solar Impulse Foundation, and welcome to the stage. Here we go.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Good evening to everyone. Why is it COP30? because the 29 previous COPs have not been able to reach the results that we need to reach. And we should ask ourselves why. And I believe that there is a big problem with the narrative of decarbonization. A lot of countries, a lot of companies, a lot of people believe that decarbonization implies a sacrifice, that it will be expensive, that it will reduce their jobs, reduce their economic growth, and they resist. And they resist so well that if we want to avoid having COP 60 or 75, we need to change the narrative. I don't think we can address the problem of climate change by speaking of decarbonization. I think we have to address the problem by speaking about modernization. Because the real problem is that we burn old type of fuels in old type of systems with thermal engines that need 3 times more energy per kilometer than an electric engine. We have buildings of the last century. We have lighting, cooling, and lighting systems that are inefficient. And we live in the world of the past. And we don't notice it because we are like a fish who is in the water and doesn't notice he's wet. So today it's time to understand that if we modernize our world, that means if we make it efficient, if we go to electrification, if we go to efficiency, if we go to circular economy, to waste management in a clever way, reabsorption of fatal heat, all this waste that costs a fortune can be diminished, can be reduced, can be suppressed, and this is economically profitable. It's so profitable. Efficiency is a way to reduce CO2 emissions, but to reduce the waste of money. So it's the market opportunity of the century. And who can say, I am against modernization? Nobody, everybody wants to be modern. So if we modernize the world, make it efficient, the CO2 decarbonization will become the logical consequence of the modernization, and we will have what we want, but nobody will resist because everybody will be able to make profit. So the question is now, how can we prove that solutions exist to be profitable? Because if you bring solutions, people will say they are not profitable. If you show that they are profitable, as we have been doing at the Solar Impulse Foundation, we have identified and labeled 1,650 profitable and efficient solutions. But it's not enough, because people want business cases. So we have published this document that you can download on our website, solarimpulse.com. It's energy efficiency, written with the E of the euro sign to really show that it's profitable, the silent moneymaker. You have dozens of business cases. That means of technical solutions that are used by businesses, by corporates, by cities, by countries, allowing to reduce CO2 emissions, reduce the waste of money, and increase the profit margin. Now we have the last obstacle. People will say, okay, solutions exist, they are profitable, there are some business cases. But if we want to get into this modernization, we have to invest. And that's true. There is an upfront investment. And I believe this is the last obstacle to unlock. And we have been working at the Solar Impulse Foundation with the European Commission and the European Investment Bank to reach a dream that I have since a really long time. You imagine the provider of a solution arriving to the client and say, look, there's a solution that will make you earn money and save CO2. I install it for free. I install it for free, you don't pay anything. Just because there's an investment fund who has paid for it. So the solution is installed, the client is paying to the investment fund a part of the money saving that he's doing, and that is what some people on a local basis call it an ESCO, call it Sovietization. We like to call it efficiency as a service. And we don't want it just local. Signify is doing it very well for LED lamps, but locally. We want to make it worldwide. So we're starting with the European Commission. The first fund will be 300 million. It has to work. That's the demonstration, it's the example. And if it works, the EU will unlock 17 billion to leverage 65 billion euros in order to help 350,000 SMEs to decarbonize, to be efficient, to earn more money. And this model can be used everywhere. And what I love in this model is the fact that it brings a new investment tool to the financial world. And we need to involve the financial world. People invest in shares, in bonds, in private equity, in hedge fund, and in real estate. Once you've done that, you've done them all. And suddenly we come and we say, look guys, there is a new system, Sovietization, where you can invest with about 4 to 8% of return every year, and you are doing good. Nobody, even the climate change deniers, will refuse to go into such type of investments. So I think it's the beginning. I love pioneering. I love doing things that have never been done. I just need to have people who believe in it, like when I flew around the world in a solar-powered airplane, when I flew around the world in a balloon, there were people supporting it, there were people believing in it, there is a team, there's followers, there are people who are leading, and all these people make the impossible possible. And we have an opportunity for that with the financial world, and I hope we'll all grab it. Good luck. Thank you.
It's always such a pleasure to have you here, and a man who's a pioneer, who is encouraging the world to really be pioneers, because you can. Thank you so much for that.
With pleasure. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. I have now another honor and pleasure of inviting our next keynote speaker, and that is Rachel Kyte, who's from the United Kingdom Special Representatives for Climate. Welcome to the stage, Rachel. Perfect.
Good afternoon. I'm deeply conscious that I'm the third white European speaker in a row, and you've got some exciting speakers still to come, so I'll keep my comments short. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope that you've had a productive day. I wanted to sort of talk about, well, make an opening sort of comment and then 4 quick points. First of all, the focus at the World Leaders Summit last week was on the fact that we have a process here which is precious, which some of you have been working on for decades, in and out, and which culminated in the Paris Agreement 10 years ago, and which is something that we could never negotiate again today from scratch. And we may be frustrated by it, and if you've been anywhere near the far end of the 1 kilometre corridor in the blue zone, there is reason to be frustrated. But it is something that is precious, that requires our constant nurturing, because it does hold us together. And so, even though you may not have a badge which gets you into the blue zone, or you may not be on a delegation, this whole ecosystem of people that comes together to propel progress is important. And so thank you. And please don't let go of this precious thing that we gave birth to 10 years ago. And then there's the question of how we communicate, how awkward and gangly and inexplicable this process is to the outside world. And I'm going to talk about things that I think that can come out of here over the next 10 days, and things that we have a duty of care to the citizens that we represent, or the people that we work for, the people we deliver services to, the people we try to protect, the people we represent, how we talk about what we're doing here. So first of all, is this question of valuing nature and investing in it. I was at a dinner last night with Guilherme Leal, who needs no introduction to any Brazilian, and inspired me over 20 years ago when I was managing the blended finance at the International Finance Corporation, and we made the first investments in what we now call the bioeconomy in the state of Pará. And he was with Denis Mirev, who I've had the great pleasure to get to know over the last few years, who's one of the biggest industrialists or businessmen of the Amazon region, and whose family have had the Amazon running through its veins for more than 500 years. And Dennis said, look, what we need all of you to do is to put a price on carbon, an effective price on carbon, and let us look after the forest. We know how to look after the forest. And I think I'm going to carry that with me, because I think that's the most profound statement about what the partnership is and why it's so important that we came to Belém, but why it's important we understand why we came to Belém and not take away the wrong message. The last thing the more than 18 million people who live in the legal Amazon need is rescuing. What they need is an effective price on carbon. So I hope that in conjunction with the TFFF, I hope we all know what that acronym is now, which is a truly innovative global possibility of investing in forests and investing in the people who protect them, that we will also come out of here with some pretty strong signals around carbon pricing, around voluntary carbon markets, and finally start to realize their potential. And I've noticed a tone and a pragmatism and a practicality about that conversation that I've never seen in a COP to date. The second, I hope, is that we take this phrase of transitioning away from fossil fuels and turn it into some meaningful process, probably outside the negotiations. A meaningful process for countries to work out how to do that. It is a profoundly different transition for Guyana than it is for Angola, than it is for Indonesia, than it is for Denmark or the United Kingdom. These are complicated transitions, but they are fundamental. And it's not enough to agree the language 2 years ago. Now we have to work with all stakeholders on what those transitions mean and how we do them. And we will need grace in this process, because it's not just a straight line, and there is fairness involved. And we will have to hold that grace between us. Yesterday, we talked a lot about short-lived climate pollutants over in the other place. You know, these things which are so obvious that we need to get out of our economy, and yet we find so difficult to do meaningfully quickly. Obvious because they're bad for the economy, they're bad for agriculture, and they're bad for our health, as well as being bad for climate. And yet we haven't been able to make the kind of progress we needed to make, and we are doubling down on that, pulling the emergency brake on short-lived climate pollutants. And today it's Health Day. Only the third COP to officially have a health day. Go figure. But an extraordinary array of support around what it means to make our health systems resilient and our health systems be able to integrate with meteorological systems so that we can protect people better. The third thing is, what can we talk about on finance when we come out of here? Well, clearly, funding the adaptation that we all need, because the future has come early, is critical. And here we will have a tough negotiation over numbers. But what we have to bring back with us is the idea that we will have to change our economies, our fiscal policy and our macroeconomic policies, so that we find ways to invest in people. This is a subject matter of our tax systems. It's how we will fund social safety nets and how we will provide security to people. We will have to find ways to invest in nature, because without nature we have no resilience. And we will have to find ways to fund resilient infrastructure. And we've made extraordinary progress on that, but that is not systematically how we plan. And look at the floods in the south of Brazil, look at the floods in Spain and Italy last year, and look at how we're building back, not better. We are just going to accrue more and more and more bills as we do so. But that will have to be a message out of here carried by all of you, because the negotiators are going to talk about whether it's 40 billion or 60 billion or 20 billion, and that does not compute for the people who hope that we're down here doing something positive for them. And so all of these things will be negotiated, and there will be outcomes. And the press will report on how difficult it was, and they'll report that the United States wasn't here, and they'll report that we're not on track. But when you are at the other end of that 1 kilometre corridor in the blue zone, away from the negotiations and in the pavilions, I have been struck that things that we've been talking about for years are now coming to fruition. Things that were small are now beginning to scale because of all of the work that you're doing and so many other people. So talk about this, write about it in different language, in words of one syllable, in the way that ordinary people can connect to it. They connect to it through their health, through their children's health, through the price of the goods in their shopping basket. For the British people, to protect the Amazon is an act of moral good. It is an act of solidarity. It is a way to keep our food security. It is fundamental to our energy security. It is fundamental to our security. And we can tell that story, and we can tell the story that that's why we had the honor to come to the Amazon region, to come to the state of Pará, to come to Belém, to deliver for them. This is what it means to accelerate implementation. Thank you.
Rachel, thank you so much for those words. Very encouraging. We appreciate that. Well, we are now to our last but not least keynote address to wrap up this wonderful day, a confluence of great people of the world. And to do that, I'll invite Flora Vano from ActionAid Vanuatu. Flora, come to the stage, and thank you so much. Can we give them a warm hand of applause? Thank you, Flora. Oh, I love the flower.
Hello, Olgeta. I came all the way from the Pacific. I've traveled miles, so many airport stops, but I made it and I'm here. I made it and I'm here. It's been wonderful to come to your country, to come to Brazil. I've heard about it, I've seen it in movies, on news, but I would say 2025, I've reached it, and that is through climate change. My name is Flora Vano, and I'm the country manager for ActionAid Vanuatu. Vanuatu is in the most prone disastrous country in the world, should I say, and we are the tiniest on the map. If you look at it on the world map, we are probably a tot, just next to Australia. Oh, wow. But being here means a lot, and I carry the voices of 10,000 women with disability, vulnerable, marginalized grouping. While in COP and hearing about all these wonderful keynote speakers, a lot of things have come into play. Everything comes together. I'm seeing from where I am, from the Pacific, seeing what I am doing with what is connected at the global level. It's all about partnership. I'm seeing a great deal of people coming together collectively, the power of the people. And that is that you have it in you, and all the businesses and all the private partnership and government alliance, everything. For me, as communities at the forefront, we are seeing from where we are looking up. While others are looking down, we are looking up. How do we connect? How do we access those resources? How do we make those policies come into life? How does it benefit us? And from here, I have seen great things. And it's coming into life. We have heard from all speakers, powerful speakers, what they are doing. And in a country that we caught 7 to 8 disasters in a month, we've never recovered. We always prepare. For me to come in and see there's so many solutions around, it's how to get it to where we are. And I could tell that this COP30 will make a big impact, and it will impact COP31, which means we will be now showcasing all the best practices that we have done. Solar, I have seen it change lives. It saves life. It puts economic in the hands of women. It decreases loss of livelihood. It decreases gender-based violence. You talk about health. And in emergency, everything we are doing in community leads up to all this global system, to all this global policy. But we are the beneficiaries of all that. We have to be resilient. And to be resilient, we need to connect and to build that partnership. In my line of work, I mobilize 10,000 women to prepare for disaster. And every year, we have to get scientists to tell us what are the changing tools, equipment, technology that we need to adapt to our local context. And for me, I'm a proud mother of 5. And being here, my kids are proud that I can actually lead this agenda on being able to speak out for other women and other communities and other families who are, every day we are getting that our land is singing. Sea level rise become our everyday impact in our livelihood, in our daily lives. So if we are looking at global warming, if we are looking at taxation, we're looking at economically, finance, everything links. Whatever happens in the global north affects the global south. I'm in the global south. I don't produce a lot of this carbon, but I am the one that the most affected and impacted in the whole cycle of it. So being here means a lot, and to listen to innovative people and innovative solutions brings hope for me, and communities at the forefront. Brings hope that they can save our country. Brings hope that tomorrow our future generation, our kids' generation would be able to live a normal life and will be able to adapt and preserve the indigenous cultural that we have and keep our identity as that. We won't be forced to displace to another country. We won't be forced to say we will leave our homes because the land that we live on is no longer safe. So the power of people, collective partnership, and financing. It needs to trickle down to us. If we can find our own solution here and link to the policy, that's where we need to channel all the focus and the finances to more innovative ideas that help the generation or the communities down there to come up and connect to the global level. Thank you, Thomas.
Flora, standing ovation. I think she deserves a standing ovation. Thank you so much, Flora. Oh, what a beautiful speech to close this wonderful day. Wow, fantastic. I mean, to really carry a nation, the voice of the ones that are not heard, the voice that are actually on the ground, it's such a great honor. And Flora, your children are very proud of you. Can you give her another warm hand of applause? Thank you. Right, we are now at the end. The final. I'm going to call upon Peter, who was shepherding and steering on the conversation at our investment COP, which is on the other building. And then our own Flora, the Grand Dame of Brazil, the Brazilian lead for the World Climate Foundation. And we just want to say thank you to you all, the soldiers that are still standing, because these are the soldiers that are going to enjoy some wonderful treats upstairs, which Flora will tell you about, and then just quickly, what is the final message from the investment COP? Positive? Very positive. Great. Okay, wonderful. That's it. Wonderful, that's brilliant. And then Flora, what's going to happen after this?
He really wants the beer, I think. So, I really want to thank all the team, this incredible team, for all the hard work to have this event so amazing, so beautiful, with all the details, with so much care. I'm looking to our head of production, director, Patricia Musial. You are the deep of my heart to thank you. Gael team, all the production. Tomorrow we have one more full day, so yes. Come back again. I want to praise that we have some of the carpenters and artists that made the the furniture for us from recycling boats. So much inspiration in this room, in this event, that now I'm honored to invite you to go up to me to the second floor for our reception. And we have a carimbó, a music from Brazil, from Belém, from Pará, to enjoy and celebrate this amazing day.
Thank you.
Thank
and also
you.
to our sponsors, Heineken and Diageo. Go have fun. We'll see you upstairs,
And
everybody,
eat.
and tomorrow. Thank you.